Your salary is not a reward, it is a leash. I do not say that to insult you. I say it because I have spent 70 years studying how wealth is actually built in this country, and I have watched generation after generation of intelligent, hardworking, disciplined people trade the best hours of their lives for a number that arrives every 2 weeks and disappears before the month is over. I call this the paycheck prison. Most of you watching this right now wake up every morning, get dressed, sit in traffic, spend 8 to 10 hours performing tasks for someone else, and return home just tired enough to do it all again tomorrow. You are not building wealth. You are maintaining survival. And the cruelest part is not that the system is harsh. The cruelest part is that it looks exactly like success. You have a job title. You have health insurance. You have a direct deposit. You have the appearance of forward motion while standing completely still. Welcome to the most politely constructed financial trap in the history of the modern world. Let me teach you something that schools will never teach you. I want you to think about what a salary actually is, not emotionally, but mathematically. A salary is an agreement. You agree to give another human being the one resource you can never replace, your time. And in exchange, they give you a fixed number that they control, that they can reduce, that they can eliminate entirely the moment it becomes convenient for them to do so. You have no leverage in this agreement. None. Your employer does not wake up in the morning and say, "Inflation is up 7% this year. Let me immediately give everyone a raise." Your employer wakes up and thinks about their own costs, their own shareholders, their own survival. And you, the salaried employee, are an expense on their balance sheet, not a partner, not a co-owner, an expense. And what do businesses do with expenses when times get difficult? They cut them. I am not saying your employer is a villain. I am saying the architecture of the salary relationship was never designed to make you wealthy. It was designed to make them wealthy while keeping you comfortable enough to return on Monday. Now I want to walk you through exactly why the mathematics of a salary make wealth building nearly impossible for most people. I am going to show you what I call the 6 walls of the paycheck prison. We are going to look at the first theft, which happens before you ever see your money. We are going to look at the leash equation, which is why your raises will always lag your losses. We are going to look at the linear ceiling, the invisible wall above every salaried worker that nobody talks about. We are going to look at the scarcity loop, which is the psychological trap that salary income creates in the human brain. We are going to look at the promotion illusion, which is perhaps the most expertly disguised trap of all. And finally, we are going to look at the compound escape, the only door out of the prison that the system accidentally left unlocked. Let us begin. The first wall is what I call the first theft. And I want to be precise when I use that word because I am not speaking emotionally, I am speaking mathematically. When you earn a salary, you are taxed first and paid second. The government takes its portion before the money ever reaches your hands. Federal income tax, state income tax in most places, Social Security contributions, Medicare. By the time a middle-class salaried worker in America receives their paycheck, they have already lost between 28 and 38% of what they earned. Now, I want you to compare that to how capital is taxed. When I sell a stock I have held for more than 1 year, I pay a long-term capital gains tax of 20% at most. When my holding companies receive dividends, those are taxed at preferential rates. When real estate appreciates, the gains are deferred until the property is sold, and even then, depreciation deductions can offset a significant portion of the liability. I have famously said that my secretary pays a higher effective tax rate than I do. I was not bragging. I was confessing. I was confessing that the United States tax code was written by people who understood the difference between income and capital, and they chose to protect capital. Every dollar you earn through your salary is taxed at the highest possible rate. Every dollar you earn through ownership is taxed at a lower rate, deferred, or in some structures eliminated entirely. The system does not treat workers and owners equally. It never has. The first theft is not a glitch. It is a feature. The second wall is the leash equation. Most salaried workers believe that if they work hard, get promoted, and earn regular raises, they will eventually reach financial independence. I want to show you why that belief, while noble, is mathematically incomplete. The average annual salary increase in corporate America runs between 3 and 4% in a good year. The average rate of inflation over the past decade has run between 3 and 8%, depending on the year, with recent years pushing significantly higher. That means in real purchasing power terms, the average raise does not make you richer. It keeps you from becoming poorer at slightly different speed. You are running on a treadmill that is set to the same pace as your stride. You feel the motion, you feel the effort, you are going nowhere. And the leash, the psychological leash of the salary, is that it feels safe. It feels reliable. It creates what I call the morphine drip of financial life, a steady, predictable deposit that numbs the urgency to build something different. Nassim Nicholas Taleb wrote in his work on anti-fragility that the most dangerous risks are the ones that feel safe right up until they do not. A salary is the perfect example of Taleb's principle. It feels safe every single month, until the company restructures, until the industry contracts, until you are 57 years old, laid off, with a resume that demonstrates excellence at following someone else's instructions, and a savings account that was never designed to last more than 8 months. The third wall is the linear ceiling, and this one is not about tax or inflation. This one is about physics. There are 24 hours in a day. You sleep for approximately 7 of them. You spend 8 to 10 working. You spend the remaining hours eating, commuting, maintaining your life. This means the ceiling on your salary income is determined entirely by the number of hours you are physically capable of selling, and that number is fixed. You cannot manufacture more hours. You cannot invest hours and receive compounding hours in return. When you stop working, whether by choice, by illness, by age, or by elimination, the income stops, completely, immediately. There is no residual. There is no momentum. There is nothing. A business owner who builds a company correctly creates a system that generates revenue while they sleep. An investor who builds a portfolio correctly creates assets that compound while they live their life. The salaried worker creates nothing that persists without their continued physical presence. I have an army of dollars working for me every hour of every day, not because I am smarter than the average working person, but because I chose to stop selling hours and start deploying capital as early as I possibly could. The linear ceiling is not a judgment, it is geometry. You cannot earn exponentially when your income source is inherently linear. The fourth wall is the scarcity loop. This one is psychological, and it may be the most powerful wall of all, because it operates entirely below conscious awareness. A study conducted by researchers Sendhil Mulanathan at Harvard University and Eldar Shafir at Princeton University found that the experience of financial scarcity, of not having enough, literally reduces cognitive bandwidth. It consumes mental capacity that would otherwise be available for long-term thinking, creative problem solving, and strategic planning. What that means in practical terms is this. When you are living paycheck to paycheck, your brain is not equipped to think about building wealth because it is fully occupied with surviving the next 30 days. The salary structure for most working people creates exactly this condition. The paycheck arrives, the bills are paid, the discretionary income is minimal, and the cycle begins again. And here is the insidious part. It is not because these people are undisciplined or unintelligent. The Harvard and Princeton research showed that even highly intelligent people, when placed under conditions of financial scarcity, made significantly worse long-term financial decisions. The scarcity loop is not a character flaw. It is a documented neurological response to a system that was never designed to give salaried workers enough breathing room to think differently. The system keeps you just comfortable enough to stay and just stretched enough to never plan your exit. The fifth wall is the promotion illusion. This is the wall I want you to look at most carefully, because it is the one dressed up most convincingly as progress. When you get a promotion, two things happen simultaneously. Your income goes up, and almost immediately, your lifestyle expands to fill the new income. A bigger apartment, a newer car, better restaurants, better vacations, a private school for the children. Each of these things feels earned because they are earned, but each of them also raises your fixed cost base, the minimum monthly amount you require simply to maintain your current life. And here is what that means financially. Your break-even point rises with every raise. The gap between what you earn and what you need to survive stays roughly constant, no matter how many promotions you receive. Economists call this lifestyle inflation. I call it the promotion illusion, the belief that more income means more wealth, when in reality it often means more obligation. The wealthiest people I have ever known were not the highest earners. They were the people with the widest gap between their income and their expenses, and they deployed that gap into assets that compounded over time. A salary increase deployed into compounding assets is powerful. A salary increase deployed into a larger mortgage and a more expensive car is a sophisticated way of running faster on the same treadmill. Now I want to tell you about the compound escape, because I did not come here only to describe the prison. I came here to show you the door. The door is not dramatic. It is not exciting. It will not make a good story at a dinner party, but it is the only door that actually leads out. The principle is this: the moment you begin converting a portion of your earned income into ownership, equity in businesses, real estate, index funds, any asset that generates returns independent of your continued labor, you have begun the process of escape. I started my first investment at age 11. I bought 3 shares of Citi's Service Preferred at $38 per share. That is not the important part. The important part is that at age 11, I understood one thing that most adults never internalize: that a dollar deployed into an asset that compounds is worth infinitely more than a dollar spent, and dramatically more than a dollar saved. Charlie Munger, my partner of more than 50 years, used to say that the first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. He was right. The compound escape does not require you to quit your job tomorrow. It does not require a dramatic leap of faith or a tolerance for chaos. It requires only that you begin treating a portion of your salary not as income to be spent, but as seed capital to be deployed. Your job for now is not your destination. Your job is your first investor. It is funding the escape. The question is whether you are using it that way. You might be thinking right now, Warren, this sounds fine for someone with money to invest, but I barely have enough left after expenses to cover an emergency. I hear that, and I want to respond to it directly, not dismissively. That feeling, the feeling that there is nothing left to deploy, is itself a symptom of the scarcity loop. The solution is not to wait until you have more money. The solution is to make the decision architecturally before the money arrives. Before the paycheck lands, automate a transfer, even if it is small, even if it feels symbolic, into an account designated entirely for investment. Not savings, investment. There is a difference. Savings is money you are storing to spend later. Investment is money you are deploying to work for you. Even $50 a month invested consistently into a low-cost index fund at an average annual return of 10% over 30 years compounds to more than $100,000. That is not retirement money, but it is the beginning of a different relationship with capital. And that relationship, once built, is the foundation on which real wealth is constructed. I want to end the way I always end, with the one currency nobody talks about, because nobody wants to face it: time. Not money, time. I want you to imagine you are 78 years old. You are sitting somewhere still. The energy that once felt infinite is gone. You cannot build anymore the way you once could. And you look back at the decades of work, the promotions, the raises, the professional excellence, and you ask yourself whether the salary that felt so reliable, so solid, so much like safety, actually carried you somewhere, or whether it simply carried you to the same place, slightly later, with slightly better furniture. I have more money than I could spend in 100 lifetimes, but I cannot buy back a single morning I spent confused about the difference between income and wealth. I cannot give back to the families who spent 30 years in the paycheck prison, believing the promotion would eventually be enough. All I can do is stand here, in this moment, and tell you clearly what I know. Your salary, no matter how large it grows, is a leash. It is a comfortable, familiar, socially approved leash. And the world will celebrate you for wearing it well. The question is whether you want to be celebrated for your obedience or remembered for your freedom. The door to the cage is open. It has always been open. The cage is not your employer. The cage is the belief that earned income and wealth are the same thing. They are not. They have never been. And every day that you treat your salary as a destination rather than a tool is another day the compounding that could have been working for you is working for someone else instead. You have today. You have this month's paycheck. You can spend it the way you have always spent it, or you can begin, even in the smallest possible way, to deploy it differently. Not with drama, not with risk you cannot afford, with the quiet, disciplined, mathematically sound decision to become an owner instead of only ever being an earner. That is all. Thanks for watching.